3, 2, 1. So let's start with your name and your birthday. It's for the record.
My name Jose Jimenez. No, my name is Max Ficklin.
And
Born on May the 13th, 1937.
Okay.
Gonzales, Louisiana.
Gonzales, Louisiana. Okay. So, do you remember being told ever if there were any interesting stories regarding, your birth?
No,
Nothing.
except that it was a dark and dreary night.
Dark and dreary night.
Yes.
What's your earliest memory?
My earliest memory? Wow. I can remember a little bit about Louisiana. My dad's mother, my grandma, she gave me and my brother 2 little white chickens. And when mine grew up, it didn't like me. And when I'd go outside in the yard to play, it would chase me all over. And in fact, one time when I was outside, it jumped up and spurred me in the thigh. And I still have a scar on my leg where the rooster spurred me.
And how old do you think you were when that happened?
Oh, I was 4 or 5 years old. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you were a kid, who was the most influential person in your life?
Oh, my parents were.
Why?
My mom and dad. Well, you associate with them the most, and you try to emulate. They're in control of you.
Yeah. So, what adjectives would you use to describe your childhood? How would you describe it?
My childhood? Wow. I think I would say that I had a happy, good childhood. I had good parents. They taught you what you needed to do, and we were a close family.
Okay. So you described your parents as good. How do you think your parents would have described you as a child?
Probably good.
Hopefully.
I didn't do anything, drastically bad. Tried to obey them,
Were you rambunctious?
No, I don't think you could say that I was rambunctious.
No.
Perry and I weren't, no.
So other than your chicken, did you have any other pets as a child?
No. In Louisiana we didn't, but we moved to Salt Lake, and my dad there were some missionaries that had served in Louisiana, and one guy was a sheep herder, and he gave my dad a little pup that was part coyote and part dog. And I can remember that dog that we had. It would, if you know Salt Lake at all, they have real deep gutters. And that dog used to lay in the gutter, wait for cars to come by, and it would chase the cars.
What did you name it?
I can't even remember. I don't know.
So those are the only pets you had? Coyote and a chicken?
Yeah, it was part coyote.
Part coyote.
So they say, yeah.
So what did you do during the summers?
We lived close to the foothills. We lived on 2nd Avenue, and N Street in Salt Lake. And up on 4th Avenue was the city cemetery. And up on just a little ways past 4th Avenue was Wasatch Boulevard that went around the foothills. And we would walk and hike in the foothills in the summertime. All the, the war was over. We had a lot of war paraphernalia, canteens, and different kinds of packs and stuff that we would have lunches, and we would always climb up one particular hill that we called Sugarloaf, and there were 2 rocks on that hill that we would run to get to. One was kind of carved out where one person could sit in that little carved, and then the other is a big rock that had a drop off. But the mountain we called Sugarloaf, you would climb up and get to what you thought was the top, and there was a big flat area. And that, I came to realize, was the bank of Bonneville Lake. And then after the flat area, then there was another peak that you could climb up.
So growing up, when you were a little boy, what was your favorite game to play? What was the favorite thing that you did?
Oh. Probably football and baseball.
Yeah.
We, when we were a little older, probably about 11 or 12, we were on a baseball team.
You and Perry?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Growing up, who was your best friend?
Barry was.
Perry?
My brother. Yeah.
Pretty inseparable growing up. And was that because of your the closeness in your age, or was it because there was nobody else around where you lived?
No, there were a lot of kids there in our neighborhood.
But Perry was your best friend?
Yeah.
Friend?
Mm-hmm.
Did you and Perry ever get in trouble?
One time.
Just once?
Yep. One time.
What'd you do?
It was time for me to be baptized. And my folks had to go downtown for a minute for something. And they told Perry and I to be ready to go back downtown to go. I was baptized in the tabernacle. And Grant Hansen came and wanted to go on a hike with Perry. Or wanted to go on a hike. So Perry decided he would go. And then I decided, well, if Perry can go, I can go. Well, my dad came home, my mom, I mean, we were scheduled I was scheduled to get baptized. Well, I wasn't there. When we got home, we got in real trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you have any nicknames growing up?
Well, sometimes people in my family would call me brother. Or Darlene called me Maxie.
Yeah. In high school, did you play on any sports teams?
Yeah, I played football. And I was on the baseball team when I was a sophomore and junior.
And what was your favorite sport?
Football.
Were you involved in any school clubs, anything like that?
Yeah, I was in the chess and checker club.
Chess and checkers.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was the announcer for the basketball games.
Okay.
When we had home games,
Okay.
I was a basketball announcer.
What did you like most about school?
I don't know. The friends you would meet and some of the classes, you know,
What did you
the
like?
activities. No, I don't. There was nothing that I didn't. I enjoyed school. There was nothing that I didn't like about school.
What was your favorite band or music to listen to?
God, I like Stan Kitten, and I like jazz.
Where did you go to college?
I went to Utah State for a couple of quarters. Yeah.
You never ended up graduating?
No. No.
Okay. When you went, did you put yourself through college, or did your parents help?
No, I
you?
was on a scholarship.
Okay. For what?
Football.
Did you start?
At that time, freshmen had to be on a freshman team.
So there was a
We couldn't play varsity ball, but yes, I started on the freshman team.
Did you room with Perry, or did you have?
Oh no, Perry went on a mission at that time.
And do you think that your short time at college helped prepare you for later in life, or was it worthwhile?
Oh yeah, sure it did.
And if you could do it again, would you have studied something else? Would you have finished college, or?
Yeah, I was always sorry that I didn't finish and get a college degree. I wished I would have.
And other than football, did you participate in any other activities on campus?
No. Mm-mm.
What was your very first job?
What was my very first job? Well, when I was in junior high school, we had paper routes. I had a paper route. But when I was in just starting high school, I worked at an old folks home. My cousin Kathleen had come up from Louisiana, and she was staying with us, and she had a job there, and I got a job, and I just helped around the place. I did dishes and cleaned up and just different odd jobs.
And what was your best job? Your favorite job?
Well, probably when I worked at the warehouse. That was a good job. I liked that.
What did you do at the warehouse?
Mechanic work and going out in the field and buying fruit and produce and running crews. It was a good job. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
What was your worst job?
Worst job? Worst job was one time when I was in high school. I had a friend that they were going to go pick corn out in the field, and I went and helped them pick corn. But the tassels on the corn would come off and get down, and it's hot, sweaty work and itchy. That was a terrible, terrible job.
Did you ever go back?
No.
No. What's the longest you ever worked for one company?
Well, at the warehouse. I worked there the longest.
And what would be if you could dream up some sort of position, some sort of work what would be the ideal job or work that you would do?
For me, boy, my ideal job would be to be a farmer, I suppose.
A farmer.
Yeah.
Any particular crop? Or
No.
you just love working outside?
Just to be a farmer.
Yeah. What was your goal as a parent?
My goal as a parent was to be an example for the kids and try to teach them, how to live. And I would want them to be better financially, I suppose, than what I was. Not to have any wants or I would just hope that they would be able to do the things they would like to do.
So when we talk about family, what does family mean to you?
Well, that's everything. That's the whole basis of life.
Do you have any regrets regarding the way you raised your kids?
No. All I admire my children and what they've accomplished.
In what ways do you think you influenced your children the most?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea.
How do you think your children would describe you as a parent?
I don't know. You'd have to ask them
You ever thought about it?
that question.
So how would you describe yourself as a parent?
Well, someone who tried to raise your kids in the right way. That's hopefully, I did what I needed to do.
Which of your parents do you think you were more similar with? Do you share more similarities?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't know. My mother was a soft-spoken, easygoing person. My dad was more a pusher, and so I don't know. Maybe my mother.
Maybe your mother. And of the people that came before you, who do you admire the most? out of
In
your
my family?
Yeah.
My parents.
And why?
Why? Because they were good parents, good people.
So a little bit of a shift now. So, what do you consider to be the most significant political event during your lifetime?
Most significant political event. Wow. I don't know. That would. I don't know if you would consider the end of World War II as political or not.
Yeah. So what
But I think probably the development of the atomic bomb and it helping to end the war, World War II.
What about in history? What do you think the most significant political type event in history is?
Well, probably the creation of the United States would be breaking away from England.
Of the political leaders throughout history, which one do you admire the most?
Well, you have to admire those men that helped form the government of the United States. You know, they put their lives on the line.
And if you could choose a time in history to live other than the present, which era would you want to live in?
I wouldn't want to live at a different time. You know this time, and this is what you know, and this is what you're comfortable with.
And if you could meet any historic icon from the past or the present, who would you like to meet?
The Savior.
Savior? Yeah. I guess he's a pretty historical figure.
Yeah.
The follow-up question is why, but I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. So what's your definition of happiness?
My definition of happiness? Boy. I don't know.
Well,
being at peace with yourself, being satisfied with your children and your family, being satisfied with what you've accomplished in life, I suppose.
And throughout your life, what was your worst injury?
My worst injury?
Yeah.
My worst injury, once when I was a little boy, sleigh riding, I ran into a tree and broke my collarbone.
Yeah. So like on a sled or
on a sled.
Or was it like a big wood toboggan? What kind of?
No, it was a steel runner.
A steel. Okay. What's your most memorable travel experience?
I can remember a little bit of moving from Louisiana to Utah on the train. And you would pass by Indian hogans, and you'd see blankets hanging up, and you know, that was exciting to me. I've traveled other countries and stuff, and it's nice to go to other places. But
and so, where's the further you talk about traveling to other countries? What's the furthest away from home that you've been?
Australia, New Zealand,
What other countries have you been to?
England, Holland, Portugal, Denmark, Germany, Japan, New Zealand, Canada, Mexico, been to Mexico.
What is your happiest memory?
how can you say what is your happiest memory when there are so many? Huh?
Are there
The
a few
the
that come to mind?
huh?
Are there a few that come to mind?
Well, yeah, the birth of your children, them, and the accomplishments they make. You know, that's what makes you happy. And they're all different incidences that that happen. You can't. I can't pick out just one in your whole life.
Can you pick out your saddest then?
Saddest memory?
Yeah.
That's the same thing. When your parents die, pass away, somebody that you love passes away, grandparents. Those are sad memories.
So if you had to choose, is there anything in your life, looking back now, that you would have changed? You wish you would have done differently, or
Yeah.
later in life you learned lessons that you wish you would have known before?
Yeah, we talked about that. I wish I'd have finished college, you know.
So of the things that you have done, is there what is your proudest accomplishment? As you look back on your life, what is the thing that makes you most proud of what you've done, what you've done?
Nothing comes to mind. I don't know what accomplishment I've, just living your life. That's all.
So as your grandkids and your great grandkids read about you and hear about you, or those who have met you, what do you hope they remember about you?
That I love them, and they're important to me.
Other people that you've met throughout your life, how do you think they will remember you? Or what do you want them to remember about you?
That I always tried to be honest with the dealings of people. I hope they consider me as an honest person,
Okay. What do you want your tombstone to say?
Just my name.
Just your name? No.
See you later, alligator.
See you later. If you could have one superhuman ability, what would it be?
Superhuman?
Yeah. Superhuman ability.
That I don't have now.
Yes. Other than the ones you currently possess.
Maybe to run a marathon.
Yeah? Yeah.
That would really be an accomplishment.
Yeah. I think
To
so.
run a marathon.
And what's your greatest hope for the future? Whether it be for you or for others?
I just hope that my children and grandchildren can live in peace and not suffer catastrophic problems, or that's what I hope for.
Let's see here. If you could be anyone in history, who would it be? Anyone in history really stick out as...
Didn't we cover that?
I think so, kinda. But if you could have been anyone in history, is there anyone you wish you could have been? We talked about who you would like to have met, but what if you could have been anyone?
If I could be anyone in history, maybe someone like Jim Bridger or Daniel Boone.
Why?
Because of the life they led, the accomplishments.
What's your favorite joke?
I was just thinking of a joke. You want me to tell you the joke?
Absolutely, yeah.
There was an Irishman and a Jewish man went into a pub to get a drink. And they went in and ordered their drinks. And a fly flew into their drinks. The Jewish man picked up the fly, took it out to the door, and he says, "Go home to your mother." The Irishman picked up the fly, and he said, "Spit it out, spit it out."
Let's see here. What are some of the main lessons that you've learned throughout your life? Some of these overall or universal lessons that everyone should know. What are some of the most important ones?
Be honest, treat people fair. Don't try to take advantage of people. You know, respect people, their privacy.
Is that last one a shot at me for making you do this interview?
No, no.
Between now and hopefully a date far in the future when you pass away, what do you hope to accomplish between now and before you die?
In my condition, I can't accomplish very much. I just be able to get around on my own. You know, not have to depend on people to care for me. I just want to be able to care for myself.
When you're the most happiest, or when you are the happiest, what are you usually doing?
Well, at this point in my life, probably visiting with family, maybe doing genealogy work.
So these last number of questions were all asked by family members,
Mm-hmm.
and so these are the things that they wanted to really get to know. Some of their questions we've already kind of covered, but some of them we haven't. So I'm going to start asking the ones from family now. So what are some things that you and your father would do together that you enjoyed?
We like to fish. I remember as a young man, we would go to sporting events. You know, we'd go to the baseball games, go to football games.
And what about with your mom?
Go camping and stuff. We used to do that. With my mom?
Yeah.
Well, at Christmas time, my mom would make candy pralines, and a lot of times I would shell the pecans for my mom. A lot of times she also made coconut cake. And we had a grinder, shredder for coconut, and I'd turn that shredder and grind up coconut so she could make coconut cake.
What is now I'm gonna say a couple names here, and I want you to tell the first story that comes to mind when these people come up. Okay. So, Perry.
Perry?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing that I can remember about me and Perry, when we were little boys in Louisiana, lighting off fireworks, firecrackers, and, you know, playing with each other. Just playing cars or cops and robbers or war or whatever.
What about Barbara?
Barbara?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, Barbara. Barbara was... I remember Barbara riding a little tricycle when we lived at 89 N Street on the sidewalk. She was always a sweetie.
What about Darlene?
Darlene? Darlene was... what I think about Darlene is she was always organized. Always very meticulous.
Chandra.
Chandra? Chandra always thought she was the cutest one. And she was really a pretty little baby. Chandra was. And she liked to dance and get dressed up.
Okay. What about Wade?
Wade? Even when Wade was a little boy, he had a real gruff, loud voice. And he was always fun to be with. Wade. Wow.
Holly.
Holly? Well, Holly, when I think about Holly, she used to like to be a cheerleader. And she liked to ride horses. Celeste did too. Celeste and Holly. We had horses when we lived out on the farm for Celeste and Holly.
So what about Celeste? Same kind of memories, horses and...
Celeste was always the boss. She was the oldest. She was always the boss of the kids.
Toby.
Toby? Oh. Oh, thing I remember about Toby is once when he was a little boy, he had to have surgery on his thumbs. And that was real hard to leave him at the hospital that night. We had to leave him at the hospital in Seattle, and it was hard to leave him. Because the next morning they were going to do surgery on his thumbs. And that was hard.
What was the surgery for? I never knew he had surgery on his thumbs.
He couldn't extend his thumbs. They were locked in place.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
What about Lance?
Lance. No. Lance was always. I think Lance was a kind of a guy that would like to, well, not take chances, but he was adventurous and liked to do things. He liked to learn things.
Tell us about the story when you got my dad, Toby, a turkey.
Well, we were on the farm, and I had brought different animals home, and for pets, and I guess Toby was feeling bad because he hadn't got anything yet, and I promised him. I said, "Well, the next animal we get, it's going to be yours." So the next animal was a turkey. They had a turkey killing plant down the block from us, and there were some turkeys that got loose, and they told us to go down and catch them. We could have them. So I caught a turkey and took it home and gave it to Toby. And said we were going to feed it, and then we would kill it and eat it. He said, "Oh no," he said, "That's my turkey. You can't kill the turkey and eat it." So we let it just grow up, and it was a tom turkey, and for some reason it got mad at Toby one time and knocked him down. And Toby was just a little boy. I don't know, maybe 3, 4, or 5, and scratched his back all up and pecked on him. And he was ready for us to kill it, but we never did kill it. Wade had got Wade before that a little calf, and it was a bull. And somehow the turkey had got in with, we had some little bandy chickens, roosters. The turkey got in and killed a bunch of roosters. And we had gone someplace, and we come back, and the turkey was dead. I don't know if it attacked the bull or what, but it was in the corner of a corral, stomped, and it was
Crushed.
It was killed. The cow, the bull must have killed him.
Tell us about the time where you dressed up like the hunchback from Notre Dame.
I was working at the Baker Shoe Store in Ogden, and they had a Halloween party. And I made this costume. I took a lady's stocking and cut holes out for my eyes and nose and mouth and stuff. A young man had come back from Brazil with Pedro Brassanini. Went over there just it was Halloween, and we were going to go to this party, this store party, but I went to my folks' house first. And they had a cement wall between my dad and the neighbor, about 3.5 feet high. So I went around to the back and I knocked on the door, the sliding patio door. And then I went and jumped over the wall and hid. And I think it was Barbara and Pedro came outside to look to see. And then I just kind of stood up with this costume And Pedro, he pushed Darlene or Barbara aside. He wanted to get in the house. He didn't know what was going on. Yeah. Oh. But to continue with that story, later on that night, some of the people that worked for my dad, had a party, and they were all dressed up. And they came to the house, and they just ran into the house, shooting cap guns and chasing each other. And Pedro didn't know what to think about all this. And he told my dad, he said, I'll be glad when Halloween is over with.
So it is no secret that your mom has been hailed as one of the best cooks in the Ficklin line,
Yeah.
if not the best. What were some of your favorite foods that she cooked?
She made good jambalaya. I remember she used to cook parsnips, which I liked. If she would cook meat, she always made a real good gravy and to put over rice. And as a young man, I remember Perry and I would come home from school. And she would have baked bread. Boy, it was good bread. We wouldn't cut it, we'd just break it.
Yeah.
And eat it. It was really good
big
bread.
chunks of bread? Is that
Yeah.
you ate so much there wasn't a point in slicing? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I remember her biscuits and gravy. And I remember my dad said that, I thought they were the best I've ever had. But my dad said that the biscuits they weren't even her homemade ones, but they were still, absolutely.
Yeah, she made good homemade biscuits.
Yeah.
Really good biscuits.
What are some of the things you loved about your dad the most? And what were some of the biggest lessons you learned from him?
Well, my dad was always supportive of his children. He always supported his children. And I guess that's the biggest lesson to learn, to support your children in the things that they do. I never heard my dad criticize any of his children. Say that they were doing something that wasn't right. Or he was always supportive of the children, of his children. And well, he always helped his brothers and sisters as much as he could too. He was always there for them, for the rest of his family.
What was your? I understand it might be difficult to put into words, but what was it like being a father for the first time?
What was it like being a father? I don't think you feel the responsibility until a little, after a few months or years. This child is yours to raise and to teach and take care of. I don't know. That's what I would think about being a father.
What was your favorite part about being a dad?
The association with your children, your family. doing things with your children, going fishing with the boys, going on vacations, you know.
What about being a grandpa?
Being a grandpa,
Yeah, what's your favorite part about that?
being able to send the grandkids home to their parents.
After spending a little time with them, send them away.
No, that's not true. Just being able to associate with the grandkids and do things with them, it's nice to be able to associate with your grandkids and have fun with them.
Okay. Riley wanted to know, who is your favorite grandchild?
Who is my favorite grandchild?
Yeah, that was a question from Riley.
You can't have a favorite grandchild. You can just love all of them equally. I know she says she's my favorite. Nicole says she's my favorite. Sid says she's my favorite.
They're all wrong.
They're all wrong. I don't have a favorite, but I love them all the same.
So, if you were going to give someone advice about being a parent, what would the advice be?
Love your children, support them. That's the most important thing, I think, is to love them and unconditionally and support them and let them know that they're loved.
Throughout the U.S. history, who was your favorite president and why? It's another question from Riley.
Well, the presidents that I knew, I think I would have to say that President Truman was a good president. And I think that Ronald Reagan was a good president. But Truman stepped into a real situation when President Roosevelt died, and he was anxious to stop the war, and he did the things that needed to be done. So.
What is your favorite movie?
My favorite movie?
Yeah, if you could only choose one film to watch, for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
The Searchers.
The Searchers.
Or
okay.
or Hondo.
Okay. What's the hardest choice you've ever had to make? Excuse me. Most difficult decision you've ever made?
I don't know. I can't think of anything.
What's something that you always wanted to learn to do that you haven't?
I'd like to be able to be a real good carver of wood. I'd like to. That's something that I would like to be able to do, is carve wood.
Where's somewhere you wish you would have visited or wish to visit that you haven't already?
Maybe the Grand Canyon or Mount Rushmore.
You never been to either?
No.
Oh.
No.
I figured you would have.
No. Mm-mm.
What is the scariest thing that's ever happened to you?
I don't know. I can't think of a scary thing.
What is your favorite place in the world?
Home.
Home?
Wherever it is, home. Wherever the home is, that's the favorite place.
Tell us a story about Toby and the bear.
Well, we were in Yellowstone Park, and we were going to go to Utah after Yellowstone. And I asked the children, I says, do you want to stay in Yellowstone one more day or go to Utah? And they decided they wanted to stay one more day and go fishing. So we found a place that was on Yellowstone Lake that looked like a pretty good place to stop. You know, it was safe, where, you know, very gradual slope into the water. And we were fishing, and I saw some fish jumping down over on to my left. And to get there, I had to jump over rocks and had to be careful of getting to where I was going. And pretty soon, Linda called and said there was a bear, and so I decided I better get back there. I can't remember jumping over the rocks or how I got there, but I didn't have, my feet were not wet. And I got there, and Toby was, by that time Linda and the other kids had gone up to the car, and Toby was sitting there, and there was a dead fish on the ground, and Toby was sitting there, and that bear was coming right at him. And finally, I was able to get to Toby and get him up to the car. And seeing the bear on all fours, it didn't look very big. But finally got in the car, and we all sat in the car. We were all excited about it. And that bear came up to a tree by the car. And it stood up, and that bear was about 7 feet tall. I don't know what we'd have done if that bear would have attacked Toby. That was quite an ordeal.
Did you scare it off?
No, I was just able to get Toby away from where he was, and
Did you draw a knife?
no, I had a pocket knife, but I couldn't have done anything with a knife against that bear. It was a huge bear, big bear.
Okay. So tell us about the time where you went hunting with your uncle and your dad.
We had driven up Party's Canyon for a while, ways, and there was a road that cut off from Party's, and we went up on that road, and there were quite a few cars parked in this one area. And we stopped, and we walked up the side of a little canyon, little gully really. We hadn't seen anything. And then on the other side of the gully, a deer came down. And my uncle shot at it and missed it, and my dad shot at it and missed it. And it went down into a bunch of trees. Then it came up, and my dad was loading his gun. He had run out of shells. And as it came up, I told my dad, he's there. And my uncle had run down the trail to get closer to it to shoot it. And my dad turned, and he had his gun sideways, and the gun went off and shot my uncle hit my uncle in the back. And my dad gave him a blessing. And I was a scout at that time. I had a little axe with a knife combination in a sheath. So I took that axe, a little hatchet, and cut some poles to make a stretcher. And a man came by and helped put his coat on there. You know, we learned in Boy Scouts how to make stretchers, you know, with coats and clothes and stuff. And we made a stretcher, and they put my uncle on the stretcher and started carrying him out. Another guy had run on down to call an ambulance. And then I was carrying the two guns. And my dad told me to go on down and direct the men that came with the ambulance. And I got down to the end where the cars were. And when the ambulance come and they were getting their gurney and stuff out, getting ready to go, then my dad and this other man came and just out, and then they were able to load him into the ambulance and take him on down into the hospital. So.
And you survived, of course?
Oh yeah, he lived. Mm-hmm.
Were your dad and your uncle still good friends after that?
Oh yeah, it was an accident. It just.
So would you share with us your testimony?
Well, what?
Your testimony?
Yeah. When I read the Book of Mormon and prayed about it, then I knew it was confirmed to me that was a true book. So if that's true, then the prophet Joseph Smith has to be a true prophet. And he saw the Savior and our Father in heaven. So the church is the true church of Jesus Christ. You know, when it's, the Holy Ghost lets you know the Book of Mormon is true, then everything else falls into place. It's true. There can't be a question about it. So the testimony is that Jesus is the Savior of the world. He has done the things he's done under the direction of the Father. Prophet Joseph Smith is a true prophet. It's called to do the work that he did. The Book of Mormon is true. That's my testimony.
And as the final question, is there anything you would want your grandkids, your great grandkids, and their children to know about you? Is there anything we haven't covered that you would want them to know, or you'd want to say to them?
What I would like to say to them is, remember that you were loved by your parents, by me, and remember the admonitions the Savior gave us all. Love each other. That's it.
That's all I got.
Anything else?
Not that I can think of. Hopefully we got it all. So what'd you think?
That's all right. Will I see this before it's released to the public?
Yeah. We can do that.